Welcome to Office Revenge Hub. Enjoy today's story.
They fired me on Christmas Eve, not after the holidays, not with advance notice. Christmas Eve, 2 hours before I was supposed to leave to see my family. But what they didn't know was that firing me on the worst day possible would lead to the best year of my life. My name is Daniel Torres, and for 6 years I was the operations manager at Coastal Logistics, a freight and supply chain company based in Miami. When I say I gave everything to that company, I mean everything. Weekends, holidays, my relationships, my health. I was the guy who made sure shipments arrived on time, who solved problems at 3 a.m, who kept clients happy when things went wrong. I started at Coastal right out of business school, 24 years old, ambitious, ready to prove myself in the logistics industry. The company was mid-sized back then, about 150 employees, handling shipping contracts for businesses all along the southeastern coast. The work was intense but rewarding. Every day brought new challenges, new puzzles to solve. My first boss, a man named Carlos Mendez, saw potential in me. He taught me everything about the logistics business, how to negotiate with carriers, how to optimize routes, how to build relationships with clients. He promoted me twice in my first 3 years. By year 4, I was operations manager, overseeing a team of 12 and managing contracts worth over $30 million annually. I loved the job. The fast pace, the problem solving, the satisfaction of keeping complex systems running smoothly. I was good at it too. Under my management, our on-time delivery rate went from 82% to 97%. My client retention improved. We landed bigger contracts, but I paid a price for that success. My girlfriend of 3 years, Monica, left me because I was never available. "You're married to that job, Daniel," she told me. "There's no room for me." I missed birthdays, anniversaries, family gatherings. My mum used to joke that she saw me less than she saw the mail carrier. I told myself it was temporary. Once I proved myself, once I moved up, things would balance out. I was building a career, building a future. Then Carlos retired 2 years ago. That's when everything changed. The company brought in an outside hire to replace him. Gregory Ashton, 45 years old, MBA from Wharton, previously VP of operations at a major logistics firm in Atlanta. He came in talking about efficiency, modernization, and maximizing shareholder value. From day one, Gregory and I clashed. Not openly, but there was tension. He didn't like that I had institutional knowledge he lacked. He didn't like that clients specifically asked for me when problems arose. He didn't like that the team was loyal to me. Gregory was all about metrics and automation. He wanted to implement new software systems, reduce staffing, outsource customer service. I pushed back when I thought his ideas would hurt service quality. "We can't just look at cost per shipment," I'd argue in meetings. "We have to consider client relationships and reliability." He'd smile tightly and say something like, "Daniel, I appreciate your passion, but we need to think strategically about scalability and margins." Translation: "Shut up and do what I say. Despite our differences, I kept doing my job. I kept managing operations effectively, kept delivering results. I thought that would be enough." Gregory brought in his own people over those 2 years, a new logistics coordinator from his old company, a new client relations manager, a new financial analyst. All of them reported directly to him, creating parallel structures that bypassed me. I should have seen what was coming, but I was too focused on the work. The company did well financially. We grew. We added new clients. Revenue increased 15% year over year. I told myself my concerns about Gregory's management style were overblown. The results were good, so maybe his approach was working. I was naive. December 24th arrived, Christmas Eve. The office was quiet. Most people had taken the day off or left early. We had a skeleton crew handling essential functions, and I was planning to leave around 3 to drive to my parents' house in Fort Lauderdale for our traditional Christmas Eve dinner. At 1:30, I got a message from Gregory's assistant. "Gregory needs to see you in his office immediately." I figured it was some last-minute crisis, a delayed shipment, a client emergency. I'd handled dozens of those before. I grabbed my phone and headed to his office. Gregory was there with Patricia from HR. That's when I knew something was wrong. You don't need HR for a logistics problem. "Daniel, thank you for coming," Gregory said. He wasn't smiling. "Please sit down." I sat. My heart was already racing. Patricia opened a folder. "Daniel, we're here to inform you that your employment with Coastal Logistics is being terminated effective immediately." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What? Why?" "We're restructuring the operations department," Gregory said. "We're moving toward a more automated, streamlined model. Your position is being eliminated." Eliminated? I couldn't process it. I've been here 6 years. Our numbers are the best they've ever been. We just landed the Martinez contract last month. "This isn't about performance," Patricia said in that rehearsed HR voice. "This is a business decision based on organizational needs." "On Christmas Eve?" I said, my voice rising. "You're firing me on Christmas Eve?" Gregory's expression didn't change. "The timing is unfortunate, but the decision had to be made before the fiscal year ends. We're offering you 2 weeks severance and coverage through the end of January. Patricia has your separation agreement. 2 weeks severance after 6 years. You after everything I'd sacrificed." "This is insane," I said. "Who's going to manage operations? Who's going to handle the Martinez account? The coastal shipping renewal is coming up in January, and I'm the only one who knows the history." "We'll manage," Gregory said. "We're promoting Justin Chen to operations director. He'll be taking over your responsibilities." Justin Chen, one of Gregory's hires from 8 months ago. A guy with half my experience who'd spent most of his time working on Gregory's automation project. "You're replacing me with Justin?" I couldn't believe it. "He doesn't know our systems. He doesn't have the client relationships." "Justin is perfectly capable," Gregory said coldly. "And frankly, Daniel, part of why we're making this change is that you've been resistant to the modernization efforts we need. You're too attached to old ways of doing things. We need someone who's aligned with our vision for the future." There it was, the real reason I'd questioned him, I'd pushed back. I hadn't been a yes man, and now I was being punished for it. "I need you to collect your personal belongings and return your access card and keys," Patricia said. "Security will escort you out." Security, like I was some kind of threat. I sat there for a moment, stunned. 6 years of my life, and they were throwing me out like garbage on Christmas Eve. "Can I at least say goodbye to my team?" I asked. "Most of them aren't here today," Gregory said. "It's better to make a clean break. We'll inform them after the holiday." They wouldn't even let me say goodbye. I walked back to my office in a daze. A security guard I'd known for years, Marcus, followed me. He looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, man," he said quietly. "This is messed up." I packed my things into a cardboard box. Photos of my family. A mug my team had given me for my birthday, certifications and awards, 6 years reduced to one small box. Marcus walked me to my car. Other employees who were still in the building watched. Some looked away, some looked shocked. The humiliation burned. I drove to my parents' house on autopilot. When I arrived, my mum took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "Mijo, what happened?" I told them. My mum cried. My dad, a quiet man who'd worked in construction his whole life, got angry. On Christmas Eve, what kind of people do that? The kind who don't see employees as human, I thought. The kind who only see numbers on a spreadsheet. I tried to put on a happy face for Christmas dinner. My younger sister was there with her husband and kids. I didn't want to ruin their holiday, but everyone could tell something was off. I barely ate. I kept checking my phone compulsively, reading the separation agreement over and over, looking for something that would make it make sense. That night, lying in my childhood bedroom, I felt completely lost. My entire adult identity had been wrapped up in that job. I was the operations manager at Coastal Logistics. That's who I was. Without it, who was I? The days after Christmas were dark. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat properly. I'd wake up at 5 a.m, my brain already racing with anxiety. I had some savings, but not much. Miami wasn't cheap. I had rent, car payment, student loans. The 2-week severance wouldn't last long. I applied for unemployment benefits. The process was humiliating. I'd never been unemployed in my adult life. I'd gone straight from college to Coastal, worked my way up, thought I was building something stable. I started applying for jobs. Operations manager positions at other logistics companies, supply chain coordinator roles, anything in the industry. I sent out dozens of applications. Most got no response. A few led to phone screens that went nowhere. You've been at one company your entire career, one recruiter told me. That makes you a risk. Employers wonder if you can adapt to new environments. The irony was crushing. I'd been fired for not being adaptable enough, and now I couldn't get hired because I looked too specialized. January was brutal. My former colleagues from Coastal reached out, are confused and angry about my sudden departure. They told us you left to pursue other opportunities, one of them said. What actually happened? I gave vague answers. I didn't want to burn bridges or come across as bitter, but inside I was furious. They'd lied about why I left. They'd controlled the narrative. I started hearing rumors through my network about what was happening at Coastal. The transition wasn't going smoothly. Justin was overwhelmed. The Martinez account, the big contract I'd landed right before being fired, was having problems. Shipments were delayed. The client was unhappy. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt sick. I'd built those systems. I'd cultivated those relationships. Watching it fall apart should have felt like revenge, but it just felt like waste. February came, my savings were dwindling, and I was behind on rent. I had to ask my parents for money, which killed me. My dad was retired, living on a fixed income, and I was 30 years old asking for help like I was a kid again. My mum hugged me. Miho, family helps family, don't be proud. But I was drowning. The job search was going nowhere. I was getting depressed, barely leaving my apartment. I'd spent 6 years grinding, sacrificing everything for a career that had been taken away in one 15-minute meeting. Then my sister called. Daniel, you need to stop wallowing. I know this is hard, but you're better than this. You're smart. You're capable. You just need to remember that. I don't know what to do, I admitted. Every door is closed. Then stop trying to go through doors, she said. Build your own. Build my own. The idea seemed impossible. I didn't have capital. I didn't have connections. I was just an unemployed operations manager with a growing pile of bills. But I couldn't keep doing what I wasn't working. Something had to change. I spent a weekend really thinking about what I knew, what I was good at, what value I could offer. I'd spent 6 years learning the logistics industry inside and out. I knew shipping, warehousing, supply chain optimization. I knew the pain points small and medium businesses faced. What if I didn't try to get hired? What if I offered my expertise as a consultant? The idea scared me. I'd never run my own business. I didn't know how to find clients or set rates or handle contracts. But I also had nothing to lose. I used the last of my savings to set up a basic LLC, Torres Supply Chain Consulting. I built a simple website using a free template. I wrote up service offerings, supply chain audits, logistics optimization, vendor negotiation, process improvement. Then I started reaching out to my network, not asking for jobs, offering help. I contacted every business owner I'd ever worked with. I'm doing independent consulting now. If you're having any logistics challenges or want to optimize your supply chain costs, I'd love to talk. Most didn't respond. A few said they'd keep me in mind. One, a guy named Roberto, who ran a medium-sized manufacturing company, actually called me back. "Daniel, we've been having problems with our distribution," he said. "Costs are up, delivery times are inconsistent. Our current logistics provider keeps making excuses. Can you take a look?" I drove to his facility the next day. I spent hours reviewing their shipping data, their vendor contracts, their warehouse processes. I found inefficiencies everywhere. They were overpaying for freight services. Their warehouse layout was creating unnecessary handling time. They had no real system for tracking inventory turnover. I put together a detailed report with specific recommendations. Route optimization that could save them 15% on shipping costs. A new warehouse layout that would improve efficiency. Suggestions for alternative carriers. "How much do you charge?" Roberto asked. I'd barely thought about pricing. I threw out a number that seemed reasonable. $2,000 for the audit and recommendations. If you want me to help implement the changes, we can discuss an ongoing arrangement. He agreed immediately. I realized I'd probably undercharged, but I needed the win more than I needed maximum profit. Over the next 2 months, I helped Roberto's company implement the changes. Their shipping costs dropped, delivery times improved. He was thrilled. More importantly, he told other business owners about me. I got a referral to a food distributor having warehouse problems. Then an e-commerce company struggling with fulfillment logistics. Then a retail chain looking to optimize their inventory management. Each project led to another. Each satisfied client became a reference. I was working insane hours again, but this time I was building something for myself. I kept my rates competitive, lower than big consulting firms, but high enough to actually make a living. My value proposition was simple. I gave mid-sized businesses the kind of logistics expertise they couldn't afford to hire full-time, but desperately needed. By May, 4 months after starting Torres Supply Chain Consulting, I was making more money than I'd made at Coastal. By June, I had too much work for one person. I brought in a freelance analyst to help with data work. By August, I hired my first full-time employee, a young woman named Sandra, who'd been laid off from another logistics company. The business grew organically. I wasn't spending money on advertising. Everything came through referrals and word of mouth. In the logistics industry, reputation matters more than marketing. I delivered results. I was responsive. I actually cared about solving problems instead of just collecting fees. And then something interesting happened. One of my clients, the food distributor, mentioned they were unhappy with their current third-party logistics provider. "We're paying a fortune and the service keeps getting worse," the owner told me. "Any chance you know someone better?" I asked who their current provider was. He told me, "Coastal Logistics, my old company, Gregory's company." "What's going wrong?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Everything, late shipments, poor communication. We had a major order miss its delivery window last month and cost us a big restaurant contract. When we complain, they make excuses. It's like nobody there actually knows what's happening." I thought about Justin Chen, Gregory's golden boy who'd taken my job. Apparently things weren't going as well as Gregory had planned. "Now, I might be able to help you find a better provider," I said. "Let me make some calls." I connected him with a competitor of Coastal's, a smaller company I knew provided excellent service. They made the switch. 2 months later, the food distributor's logistics problems were solved. But the story didn't end there. Word spread in the industry that I'd helped a major client leave Coastal. Other businesses started reaching out. "We're having similar problems with Coastal. Can you help us evaluate alternatives?" I consulted for 3 more companies over the next few months. All of them were Coastal clients. All of them were unhappy with the service quality. All of them ended up switching to other providers. I wasn't actively trying to hurt Coastal. I was just solving problems for my clients. But the pattern was clear. It's Gregory's automation strategy, his cost-cutting measures, his dismissal of the relationship-based approach I'd championed. It was destroying the company's reputation. Then I got a call from Amanda Rivera. She was the VP of Logistics at Martinez Industries, the big account I'd landed right before being fired. "Daniel, we need to talk," she said. "We're having serious problems with Coastal. I know you used to work there. Can you help us figure out what's going wrong?" Martinez Industries, the crown jewel, the account that was supposed to validate Gregory's leadership. I met with Amanda. She laid out the issues: consistent delivery delays, poor communication, rising costs, multiple billing errors. "When you were there, things ran smoothly," she said. "Since you left, it's been a disaster." What happened? "I was let go," I told her honestly. "The new management wanted to take things in a different direction." "Well, their direction is costing us money and damaging our customer relationships," Amanda said. "We're considering terminating the contract. But we wanted to talk to you first, since you were the one who set everything up. Is there any way to fix this?" I thought carefully before answering. I could try to help Coastal, offer to consult for them, maybe salvage the situation. But why would I? They'd fired me on Christmas Eve. They'd humiliated me. They'd lied about why I left. "Amanda, honestly, I don't think the problems at Coastal are fixable in the short term," I said. "They've made fundamental changes to how they operate. The institutional knowledge is gone. The people who understood your account are no longer there." "So what do we do?" she asked. "You need a logistics provider who can give you the kind of attentive, relationship-based service you had before. I can recommend several companies who would be a good fit, or..." I paused. "My consulting firm has grown enough that we could potentially manage your logistics directly. We'd coordinate with carriers and warehouses, but you'd work with people who actually understand your business." Amanda looked interested. "Tell me more." Over the next 2 weeks, I put together a comprehensive proposal. Torres Supply Chain Consulting would become Martinez Industries' logistics partner. We'd handle everything Coastal had been doing, but with better service and lower costs. I brought in partnerships with carriers I'd worked with for years. I designed a system specifically optimized for Martinez's needs. Amanda presented my proposal to her executive team. They approved it. Martinez Industries fired Coastal Logistics and hired me. A $4 million annual contract, the biggest deal my year-old consulting firm had ever landed. When I signed the contract, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just business success. This was validation. The account I'd brought to Coastal, that they'd kept after firing me, had now chosen to follow me to my own company. I hired more people, expanded the office, brought in experienced logistics professionals who'd been burned by companies like Coastal. We built something different, a company that valued expertise over automation, relationships over metrics, quality over cost-cutting. The Martinez win got attention in the industry. So a trade publication ran an article about the upstart consulting firm taking business from established players. They interviewed Amanda, who praised our service and mentioned we were outperforming her previous provider in every metric. The article didn't name Coastal, but everyone in the industry knew who she was talking about. I started getting calls from bigger potential clients. companies that had worked with major logistics firms and been disappointed. They'd heard about Torres Supply Chain Consulting's reputation for actually caring about service quality. 1 year after being fired, my company had 20 employees and $7 million in annual revenue. We'd taken 4 major clients from Coastal and another 6 from various competitors. We'd been profitable from month 6 and were growing 30% quarter over quarter. And then I got the most interesting call of all. It was from a board member at Coastal Logistics, a man named William Hartley who'd been on the board since Carlos's time. "Daniel, I need to speak with you confidentially," he said. We met at a coffee shop far from either of our offices. William looked tired. "I'm going to be direct," he said. "The company is in trouble. We've lost major clients. Revenue is down 25% from 2 years ago. Service quality metrics are at an all-time low. The board is not happy with Gregory's leadership." I listened without comment. "Several of us remember what things were like when you were there," William continued. "We've watched you build something impressive in just over a year. We've also noticed that many of our former clients are now working with you." "They came to me because they weren't satisfied with their service," I said neutrally. "I know, and that's on us, on Gregory specifically." William leaned forward. "The board is considering making a leadership change. We want to know if you'd be interested in coming back as VP of Operations. Full control over the department, significant equity stake, the authority to rebuild things the right way. Coming back to Coastal as a vice president, everything I'd lost and more. The vindication would be complete, walking back into that building as an executive, proving to everyone that firing me had been a mistake. I should have been thrilled. Instead, I felt nothing. "William, I appreciate the offer," I said, "but I'm not interested." He looked surprised. "Can I ask why? We're prepared to make this very lucrative for you." "Because I don't want to fix someone else's company anymore," I said. "I'm building my own. I have clients who trust me, employees who depend on me, a business that operates according to my values. Why would I give that up to return to a place that fired me on Christmas Eve?" William nodded slowly. "I understand. For what it's worth, I voted against letting you go. I thought it was a mistake then, and I know it was a mistake now." "I appreciate you saying that," I said, "but it doesn't change anything." We shook hands and parted ways. I walked back to my car feeling lighter than I'd felt in months. A year ago, that offer would have felt like the ultimate victory. Now it just felt like an irrelevant distraction. I had already won. Not by destroying Coastal, but by building something better. Over the next few months, I heard through the industry grapevine that Coastal was continuing to struggle. Gregory was eventually pushed out by the board. They brought in another outside executive to try to turn things around. Some of my former colleagues left for other opportunities. I felt bad for the good people who were caught in the chaos, but I didn't feel responsible. I'd offered several of them jobs at my company. Some accepted, others chose to stay and try to rebuild. That was their choice. Torres Supply Chain Consulting kept growing. We opened a second office in Atlanta. We expanded our service offerings. We became known as the company that prioritized service quality over everything else, the anti-coastal. 2 years after being fired, my company was doing $20 million in annual revenue. I had 60 employees across 2 offices. We'd won industry awards for service excellence and innovation. I'd been invited to speak at logistics conferences about building client-centric business models. I was financially secure for the first time in my life, not just comfortable, but actually building wealth. I paid off my student loans, bought a house, started investing. More importantly, I had balance. I worked hard, but I made time for my family. I started dating again and met someone wonderful, a teacher named Lisa, who thought my ambition was admirable, but also insisted I show up for dinner on time. I reconnected with old friends. picked up hobbies I'd abandoned years ago. I ran into Gregory once at an industry conference 18 months after everything went down. He was between jobs, networking aggressively. Mahi saw me and looked away quickly, pretending he hadn't. I could have confronted him, could have made some pointed comment about how firing me worked out, but I didn't. He was irrelevant to my life now, just a person who'd once made a bad decision that accidentally set me on a better path. The real revelation came when I sat down to reflect on the whole journey. Being fired on Christmas Eve had felt like the end of everything, the worst possible thing that could happen. But it had actually been a gift. At Coastal, I'd been trapped, comfortable but not fulfilled, working for someone else's vision, building someone else's company. I'd told myself I was happy because I didn't know what else was possible. Being fired forced me to discover what I was actually capable of. It pushed me to take risks I never would have taken otherwise. It taught me that job security is an illusion and that the only real security comes from your own skills and resilience. Getting fired wasn't the tragedy. Staying at Coastal, slowly becoming more bitter and burnt out under Gregory's leadership, that would have been the real tragedy. 3 years after that Christmas Eve firing, I was invited back to speak at a business school event about entrepreneurship. The professor introducing me mentioned that I'd started my company after being laid off from a previous position. Sometimes our biggest setbacks become our greatest opportunities, he said. During the Q&A, a student asked how I dealt with the emotional impact of being fired. I thought carefully before answering. I won't lie, it was devastating, I said. I felt like a failure. I questioned everything about myself. But eventually I realized that being fired wasn't a reflection of my worth. It was a reflection of one person's limited judgment. The real failure would have been letting that experience define me instead of using it as fuel to build something better. After the event, several students came up to thank me. One of them, a young woman, told me she'd been fired from an internship and was feeling hopeless about her career prospects. "Your story gives me hope," she said. That's when I realized the full arc of what had happened. My revenge wasn't about hurting Coastal or proving Gregory wrong. It was about transforming pain into purpose, rejection into resilience. It was about building a success so complete that the people who dismissed me became footnotes in a much larger story. The best revenge isn't dramatic. It's not about confrontations or public humiliation. It's about becoming so successful, so fulfilled, so genuinely happy that the people who hurt you simply stop mattering. Gregory firing me on Christmas Eve was supposed to be my lowest moment. Instead, it became the catalyst for the best decision I never made intentionally. He thought he was eliminating a problem. He actually freed me to become a competitor he couldn't beat. Last Christmas Eve, exactly 3 years after being fired, I threw a holiday party for my company. 60 employees and their families gathered in our Atlanta office. We catered good food. We gave generous bonuses. We celebrated a successful year together. Looking around at all those people, many of whom had their own stories of being undervalued or pushed out of previous jobs, I felt overwhelming gratitude. Not for being fired, but for what I'd built afterward. My sister, who'd told me to stop wallowing and build my own door, pulled me aside. "You did it, Hermano. You really did it." "We did it," I corrected her. "I couldn't have done it without the people who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." That night, driving home to have dinner with Lisa and my family, I thought about that younger version of myself sitting in Gregory's office on Christmas Eve, feeling like his world was ending. I wished I could tell him that everything was going to be okay. Better than okay, that the firing would hurt, but it would also liberate him to build something he couldn't even imagine yet. But he needed to walk through that fire to get here. We all do. The people who fire you on holidays aren't thinking about you as a person. They're thinking about fiscal years and organizational charts and their own careers. They're making decisions based on limited information and personal biases. And sometimes, without meaning to, they're doing you the biggest favor of your life. My comeback wasn't legendary because I destroyed, coastal, or humiliated Gregory. It was legendary because I used their rejection as fuel to build something better than I ever could have built under their leadership. The best revenge is living so well that the people who hurt you become irrelevant to your happiness. That's what I did, and 3 years later, I'm not angry anymore. I'm not bitter. I'm just grateful that being fired on Christmas Eve forced me to bet on myself, because betting on myself turned out to be the best decision I never knew I was making. If you've ever been betrayed at work, you're not alone. Where are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe to Office Revenge Hub for more powerful workplace revenge stories.